Good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure to be speaking to you all. Nice to be together with all eligible organizations. So in my first slide, I just want to remind you that we do have the 7 scientific committees, and we have patients or members representing patients sitting on 4 of these scientific committees, and members representing healthcare professionals on 3. And now the other members of the committees, as you will know, are members of usually national competent authorities. So they have big institutions behind them to provide support. And so there's a lot of work on the committees, and part of this is to pay tribute to the members, and lots of them are actually connected today for their hard work. And so we as a department recognize that there was a need also to support and coordinate and listen to these members, and as Juan also said, to make sure that they also had a chance to speak to each other. And so with that, I have the acronyms of the committees. As a reminder, there are also members representing patients and healthcare professionals on the management board, but we're going to focus on the committees today. So in the next slide, I just remind you that the creation of each committee, and therefore the composition of each committee, is based in legislation. And here you have the different years and the creation of the different committees where patients and or healthcare professionals have become full voting members with the same rights as every other committee member within the EMA scientific committees. In the next slide, I just show you for your own information the number of members that exist on the different committees. So you can see in the there are 3 members representing patients and no members representing healthcare professionals. This is the first committee that had patients or civil society members as members of the committee. There are no alternates for any of the committee members. The PDCO has 3 patient members and 3 alternates, and 3 members representing healthcare professionals and 3 alternates. And then we see with the CAT, the Advanced Therapy Committee, we have 2 members and alternates for both patients and healthcare professionals. And with the last committee, the youngest, between quotations, the PRAC, we have 1 member and 1 alternate for each patients and healthcare professionals. Importantly, these members, although they're working on EMA scientific committees, are actually nominated by application to the European Commission following a call for expression of interest. And some of you may have seen recent calls from the Commission for membership of the Advanced Therapy Committee, the Pharmacovigilance Risk Assessment or Safety Committee, and the Management Board at EMA as well. So with that, in the next slide, I just wanted to show you, and this I realize is very small here on the screen, but it's just a very brief overview of the Commission nomination process. On the side, you see the kind of length of time, and then the different steps involved, including finally the publication, or at least the information to the applicant. So there is a selection panel that's put together, and then the applications are very closely scrutinized and validated. So with that, if we can go to the next slide. One of our early discussions, and as Juan said, there's been a lot of discussion with these representatives across the years. And in 2017, we actually started meeting with these members of the committees, both separately in individual committees, just to talk to them separately, and then also we started an annual meeting. So in our first annual meeting, we really looked at defining and exploring the role of the members in the scientific committees. And this document on the screen is actually linked. So when you get the slides then you will be able to also link to this document and have a look. So there was a lot of pre-existing experience of membership within the committees anyway. So as we said, we updated this document to include the role of healthcare professionals in the committees as well in 2017, 2018. And as we know, we already had experience since the year 2000 with patients as members of the Orphan Committee. So we know that participation of civil society improves the quality of the opinion of the committee, bringing in this missing and very important element. It increases transparency, and I think what also happens is there's a dialogue, and we can see a great mutual respect between regulators and the community. In the next slide, we see specifically, this is what's outlined within the document, the role of members representing patients' organizations. And again, as you all know, the importance of bringing in someone representing patients is to bring this unique input in living with a condition, its current therapeutic environment, complementing the scientific information with a lived experience. It's not expected to be of a scientific nature. And I know there has been a move towards nominating more committee members with scientific experience, but those committee members are not intended to have to bring a scientific aspect to this, although of course it's an added value for them if they can. So in the next slide, we look more specifically at the role of the healthcare professionals. And of course, the healthcare professionals are a very diverse group. It's practicing specialists, general practitioners, nurses, pharmacists, including hospital community pharmacists. So there's very different perspectives being brought by each of these individuals who are named on the committee. So again, here, the healthcare professionals support and reinforce existing knowledge with additional input from day-to-day clinical practice. And this is also very important, because while a lot of the other committee members are healthcare professionals by training, they're not necessarily practicing in a day-to-day basis. Importantly, while our healthcare professionals certainly can bring scientific contributions, they're not expected to necessarily have regulatory expertise. With time on the committees, of course, patients develop scientific expertise and healthcare professionals develop regulatory expertise, but that's not the role that they're expected to have. The added value is to really bring the implications of regulatory decisions in the day-to-day to show what the implications are. So as I've already said, we usually have meetings twice a year with each individual committee, and then an annual meeting where everyone comes together. Now, the nice thing is that we've also started, we had a first meeting all together, and then we just with the patients and healthcare professional members, and then we invited the committee chairs. And since then, this has really become something that I think a lot of people consider to be a very important annual meeting. And I think that the interactions, the learning between the different committees is very important and very beneficial to all. In the next slide, I just show you some of the key points that we touched upon across the years, and I'll end with the meeting that we had on the 1st of October this year, which, as Juan said, was an incredibly rich meeting. So as I've already described, in 2017, we really talked a lot about developing the document, the role of the civil society members in the committees. We talked a lot about the needs of the members, the logistical needs. They couldn't access documents. They were having trouble with computers. And so we really went from this to then moving into, as I said, in 2018, the committee chairs attended for the first time. We started asking, they were asking questions about the commission nomination process, and we talked more about additional support and training for them for their committee work. Last year, then, we looked more at some of the strategic documents that had been developed by EMA, such as the regulatory science strategy, and then across the whole regulatory network with the European Medicines Agency's network strategy, and how this links with committee work. So we could see then that the committees are not just individual entities, but really part of this whole kind of community of network of regulators, including the civil societies. And as Christelle just discussed, there was an update in the competing interest policy, and so there was a first discussion with this group about repurposing and also the extension of the mandate of the EMA mandate to include medical devices. Now this year, on the 1st of October, we had another very nice meeting where there was very rich discussion, really a lot around patient-generated data, around guidances for patient-generated data to make sure that things were really clear and making sure that the data could be validated. Access to medicines remains very much high on the list of important topics for both patients and healthcare professionals. And I think you'll see in the next presentation by Uli that this keeps coming up. Raising awareness also of the work of the committees, the individual committees, to EMA and EMA to learned societies, to healthcare professional organizations. From the patient point of view, we are frequently invited to talk about EMA, but do the committee members get invited to talk about the different committee activities, to raise that awareness, also to include additional experts into the committee work, which I think can only enrich it. And underpinning all of this, as you can see, we will consistently reinforce the message that if there are specific patients or healthcare professionals needed for the committee work, in particular discussions about medicines or diseases, then we as the public engagement department can support those activities. So I think that is my last slide. Oh no, my last slide is just to conclude that for us as well as EMA and as a department, this has been a very rich opportunity for exchange. We have the opportunity for the civil society members on these different committees, rare disease, pediatric, advanced therapy and safety, to exchange well, as I said, starting from logistical problems to then more higher level discussions on data, on access. We also had the opportunity with the committee chairs to really have more interaction with these particular members outside of the committee plenary, for EMA to hear the views of the different committees, again, also outside of the committee work, and then to identify and explore further overlapping issues, which is relevant to both our work as the regulatory body and also for the European community of patients and healthcare professionals. So with that, I think that is my last slide, and I thank you for your attention.